Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grid Tonight, our weekly news show dedicated to motorsports news and reporting all news in the motorsport industry. Today is Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. My name is Joe Samniego, and with me is Kobe Lambeth from the podiumfinish.net, and we'll start off with the latest from NASCAR.
So Monday's race at Talladega Superspeedway was marred by the hateful incident that occurred on Sunday evening. After conducting an investigation, the FBI stated that a noose had been up since October of 2019, puzzling many in the racing community. The joint statement from the FBI did confirm that garage stall number 4 had a noose in there prior to Richard Petty Motorsports being assigned to the garage. However, a NASCAR statement indicated that a garage pull rope fashioned like a noose had been positioned there instead since last fall, and NASCAR did thank the FBI for investigating, again stating their serious commitment to providing a welcoming environment for all. And NASCAR was relieved to know that it wasn't a serious threat to Bubba Wallace. So, Joe, what were your initial thoughts when the FBI findings came out to the public?
My initial thoughts when the public was made aware of what the FBI found was that NASCAR and Richard Petty Motorsports, especially the employees that found this news, should be applauded for their actions in bringing up the concerns. Several things we should consider, especially with this weekend and everything going on. Last year, October, when we were in Talladega, we did not have the social unrest that we're seeing today. It was a typical NASCAR playoff race at Talladega Superspeedway. It was a very different mood in the garage last year. This year, we're under a pandemic situation where we don't have as many people going to the garage. We don't have the teams and the drivers going to the garage as we used to. We've also are in a situation where NASCAR has essentially banned the Confederate flag, and that has provoked a strong response from a small minority of so-called race fans. These so-called fans have sent death threats to Bubba Wallace, to Steve Phelps. They were protesting the day before at Talladega Superspeedway, and even Sunday morning, a flag with the Confederate flag and the message "Defund NASCAR" was present. Considering all the circumstances going around, when the team saw that one noose in their garage stall and looked at all the other garage stalls and saw there was not a similar noose or not in any garage stall at Talladega Superspeedway, just theirs, their concern was for the safety of their driver, Bubba Wallace. They did the right things in then telling NASCAR. NASCAR then did the right things in handling the situation with the investigation and taking it very seriously. They then even contacted the FBI to look into it to see, was this a case where somebody manipulated the rope to look like a noose to threaten or intimidate Bubba Wallace and send a hateful message, or not? At the end, NASCAR and the NASCAR family felt a sigh of relief knowing that this wasn't someone from the NASCAR community that deliberately did this towards Bubba Wallace and his team. However, going forward, NASCAR should definitely handle essentially any kind of threat like this very seriously. I don't see this as a PR nightmare for NASCAR, but confirmation that NASCAR is serious about keeping their drivers safe, keeping everyone in the NASCAR community safe, and promoting a welcoming environment for all race fans.
Yeah, NASCAR and the NASCAR family, as you mentioned, it was a huge sigh of relief knowing that somebody, within NASCAR as an employee in the sport did not commit a hate crime. And that's definitely a welcome sight that somebody in the industry did not have that amount of hate in their heart. And going forward, how do you think NASCAR should handle race weekends, especially when the fans return and the second race weekend at Talladega in the fall?
I say they should handle it the same way. We've heard from NASCAR that no fans showed up with any Confederate flag or Confederate flag clothing or memorabilia. We should expect the same thing. If somebody does try to sneak in one or wear one, they should be told they're not welcome onto NASCAR property, NASCAR grounds, and be asked to leave or remove that item. When it comes to a threat like this, as I mentioned before, RPM, their employees made sure this wasn't just an overreaction. They looked and they saw that other pull ropes did not have this. If there was any threat to any employee or customer, any organization will take the same effort to protecting them and everyone surrounding the area. This is definitely something where NASCAR did the right thing in taking it very seriously. They were transparent about it. Some people had said NASCAR should have been a little bit more quiet. Well, then you have some people that could criticize NASCAR for trying to sweep it under the rug, not taking it seriously. NASCAR did everything right, and they even got the FBI to verify and do an independent inspection to say they did everything right and this was not a threat. So definitely, I think NASCAR, especially seeing all the drivers rally behind Bubba Wallace, even though we know that it wasn't a personal threat against Bubba Wallace, it was still very comforting knowing that the NASCAR community, the NASCAR drivers, and essentially the NASCAR family has Bubba Wallace back. And if you mess with one of them, you mess with all of them.
Yeah, and moving forward, what do you think the message that should be shared concerning everything that happened at Talladega? I understand that we're seeing all these crazy conspiracy theories online that are trying to undermine what we saw on the pre-race grid. With all the drivers showing unity towards Bubba Wallace, and then after the race, when you saw all those fans lining on the fence cheering for Bubba. Ryan Blaney won the race, but people were lined up on the fence cheering for Bubba. So as we move forward from this past weekend at Talladega, what do you think the main message that should be taken away from the whole experience?
Talladega was the test for NASCAR and they teams, and they all passed it. While the threat didn't turn out to what we thought it was originally, NASCAR did the right thing in taking it seriously, taking a report from our PM seriously, Richard Petty Motorsports. Considering the climate that weekend, sure, a team member could have noticed and not taken it seriously, but everyone wanted to make sure Bubba was safe, that we had a welcoming environment. And I think the message everyone should take is NASCAR is serious. NASCAR is welcoming to everybody, and that NASCAR is dedicated and determined to keep everyone safe.
Love, equality, unity, family. While it turns out that a true threat never existed towards Bubba Wallace, I applaud NASCAR's leadership for taking this very seriously. It shows their commitment to ensuring Bubba Wallace's safety and simply doing the right thing that we should all do as human beings. The pre-race scene was extremely powerful and moving. Watching all the drivers and teams rally behind Bubba Wallace was such a special sight to see, especially the emotional moment between Bubba and the King, Richard Petty. To paraphrase a quote from Clint Boyer, when you mess with family, you're messing with us all. That message applies to all the horrible people on the internet intentionally spreading lies about the sport to fit their own agenda. Just know that you may win some battles here and there, but overall, you will not win the war. Trust me, love wins over hate, always.
Always indeed. And NASCAR will be sure to keep fighting the war to make sure they win it, because love will always win. With everything NASCAR has been going through, NASCAR fans are still processing everything that did happen this past weekend. However, everyone is looking forward to the next race weekend at Pocono. We have a schedule, and this schedule is unique. It's a doubleheader, a first for the NASCAR Cup Series at Pocono Raceway. Pocono moved from two separate race weekends to one weekend with two events. This was planned prior to the start of the pandemic, so this was the original plan. Of course, the original plan included a lot more fans attending, but that's not the case. Do you believe Pocono, being the first to have such a doubleheader, is the best track for this experiment, especially since NASCAR has never done something like this before?
Well, I'm not gonna necessarily single out Pocono and say that is the best track for this, but But hey, if NASCAR wanted to do a doubleheader, they had to choose one track, and I'm glad that they chose Pocono to do this. I understand we're gonna be seeing a lot of racing this weekend at Pocono, and overall, I think it's definitely great to see something like this as we saw, like early in the season, have a 400-mile race at Darlington on Sunday, and then you come back later in the week and run a 500K race, shorter distance, a double header at the same track, and it's definitely gonna be interesting having a NASCAR Cup race on Saturday and then another one on Sunday at the Pocono Raceway.
You bring up a really good point, especially about Darlington having essentially a long race, a short race. Charlotte was the same. I do see where Pocono, it is one of the few independently owned tracks. This seems like it would be a good fit for them. 2021, we are now seeing rumors of Road America is going to be part of the schedule for the Cup Series. We know Nashville is coming back, and Dover is actually losing a date for Nashville. Should Pocono be one of the tracks to keep the doubleheader weekend going into next year's season?
Oh yeah, I definitely don't see no problem with Pocono getting another double header next season, unless NASCAR just decides to subtract a race for another track. So Pocono is definitely going to be on the schedule next year. It definitely wouldn't be a surprise to see two races again, or maybe as I just said, they might lose a race. I mean, you just never know. It's going to be interesting to see the 2021 NASCAR schedule when it finally comes out.
Definitely will be following any news about the 2021 schedule for NASCAR. Be sure to follow Grid to be keep up to date, especially if that news breaks out at some point. And also want to give everyone a friendly reminder: be sure to catch Grid Live this time Saturday morning prior to the NASCAR Cup Series race. And be sure go on Twitter or our new Facebook and submit your picks for Pick a Winner.
Speaking about pick a winner, this week fans have four races to pick a winner. The Virgin Australia SuperCar Series is back in action this weekend with a doubleheader at Sydney Motorsport Park. The last race weekend for the Supercars was the opening weekend at Adelaide, where Jamie Whincup and Scott McLaughlin both claimed victories. And Scott McLaughlin, he's currently leading the grid ranking. But how likely do you think it will be for him to keep the lead after this weekend, given since it's been a while since the Supercars last race?
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Of course, Scott McLaughlin running for Team Penske down there at the Supercar Series. He is coming off the last race win, but that was way back in March, even way before the race in Melbourne was canceled. So everyone's going to be feeling the same effect the Cup drivers felt of returning back, different format, all the safety precautions. When it comes to Sydney Motorsports Park, he only has one win in the last few races there. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Scott McLaughlin. And of course, if he doesn't win, if he has a poor performance, you could see us shuffling the grid ranking depending on how Jamie Whincup does. He could take the lead. There's a good chance Sebastian Ogier from WRC might end up with the lead, and he'll be the first World Rally Championship driver to lead the grid ranking.
Yeah, and heading into this weekend's doubleheader at Sydney Motorsports, where Jamie Whincup has four wins at the track. Who do you think has the upper hand this weekend? Oh, and also I forgot to mention Shane Van Gisbergen also has four wins.
Definitely when it comes to Jamie Whincup, Shane Van Gisbergen, both of them with 4 wins each. I think a lot of them are going to be folks will be looking at Shane Van Gisbergen. He was second place last year. He was essentially Scott McLaughlin's biggest threat towards the championship, but that just didn't work out. He didn't get a win this first weekend. I think he's going to be looking to try to earn that win this weekend at Sydney.
Yeah, and the Supercars first race is Saturday in Australia, and it starts at 1:30 a.m. Eastern time or 10:30 p.m. Pacific time Friday evening. Since Grid Live is Saturday morning, it's time for pick a winner for the first Supercars race at Sydney Motorsports Park, and I'll go first. I'm gonna take the safe choice here and go with Scott McLaughlin since it seems like he was winning everything down under.
Scott McLaughlin is a good pick. I'm going to go with Shane Van Gisbergen. He got the 4 wins at Sydney Motorsports Park. I think he will definitely rebound after not getting a win that first race weekend. And I definitely see him being somebody to get that win. And of course, a reminder to all our fans, be sure to comment with your picks for pick winner. As Kobe mentioned, there are 4 races, the 2 supercar races and the 2 Cup Series races are going on this weekend. Speaking about the weekend, the news, of course, Sunday from Talladega has united the racing industry amidst the shock and sadness that followed. While the majority of the responses have been supportive of Bubba Wallace, NASCAR, and NASCAR's investigation, there has been a small backlash from a small but vocal group that has made an online presence and are harassing race fans and members of the racing industry. Shortly after NASCAR announced the banning of the Confederate flag, a group called Boycott NASCAR started up, stating their opposition to the new policy, despite NASCAR exercising its authority since they own the property at the racetracks. Then a screenshot circulated on the online motorsports community of more fans criticizing the group, which is a good response considering we want a more welcoming environment for all. However, it didn't stop there. There has been some people taking screenshots of hateful messages sent directly to Bubba Wallace. Reports have indicated that Bubba Wallace and even Steve Phelps from NASCAR, the president of NASCAR, have received death threats. As fans stood up for Bubba and NASCAR and they're moving forward of the sport, the fans began to target of the so-called fans with threats and racist messages. One such was directed towards Darian Gillum of Black Flag Matters, in which a user threatened his family's safety by posting their address up. The culprit was reported to law enforcement, and essentially law enforcement is dealing with it. One of the things authorities are investigating to see what's going on. There has been numerous reports of people involved in the racing communities as well too that have taken aim at Bubba Wallace and NASCAR. Earlier in the weekend, a gentleman by the name of Hunter Bullen, a gasman who had worked for Elevated Performance, which employs pit crew members for several racing teams, was terminated as an employee after a tweet that he had made. The more recent high-profile case was Mike Skinner's son, Dustin Skinner, who replied with a racist message against Bubba Wallace. Mike Skinner made 2 statements condemning his son's statement that it does not reflect his and his wife's belief. Now, Kobe, I know some people assume when Ray Ciccarelli comments of retiring after the flag ban was announced was sort of going to be the one person that spoke up, but everyone was going to move forward with NASCAR. Are you surprised by some of the online comments, especially the ones made by people in the industry?
Well, to be honest with you, these comments don't surprise me at all, sadly. It's truly sad. People hold certain views and they're starting to feel more comfortable saying these kinds of things. I have no idea why people keep making these insensitive comments on social media, knowing there's certainly going to be backlash for it. You may have the freedom of speech, but it doesn't excuse of any potential consequences that you may face for saying what you for saying whatever you want. Trust me, a lot of other individuals feel the same way as those individuals that you mentioned, but they aren't dumb enough to make their feelings be known to the public. No matter how hard you try to get people to see the troubles in the world, some of them will understand at some point. For others, it will take longer, and some will simply never get it. I will say that I am impressed by the amount of people standing with Bubba Wallace. He has way more people for him than against him. I'm truly saddened to see people with blue check marks on social media making ridiculous claims about this whole situation. Are they just simply ignorant and don't know any better? But my biggest fear is they know exactly what they're doing, intentionally trying to bring more hate Bubba Wallace's way and hurt NASCAR in general. How evil do you have to be to promote disgusting acts of bullying and hate towards others? How can you sleep at night knowing what you did? As Joe Logano perfectly said, fix your heart, man. And when you were mentioning people in the industry making those tone deaf comments, I actually knew one of the people that you mentioned, Hunter Bullins. He raced in an esports league that I'm a part of on NASCAR Heat 4. I'm in this league with several people, including a person of color who works in the industry. Although he hasn't been a regular in our series, although Bullins hasn't been a regular in our series lately, we never had an issue with him at all. When he did compete, we all had a good time together. He was just one of the guys. When I saw his comments on Twitter saying that NASCAR has never been criticized for being racist, it really surprised me and just I was stunned. I guess it just shows that you never truly know a person. You know, they can just smile in your face, and then behind your back, you have no idea what's going on in their mind. And saying that NASCAR has never been criticized for being racist is totally false. Anybody with any common knowledge of the sport's history would know that, unless you're just one of those people who are in total denial of the facts. I know people of color who told me they would never support NASCAR, and guess why? Stereotypes from the past. While NASCAR will never escape its past, we have definitely come a long way, and we still have a long way to go. But I do feel like change is on the horizon, and NASCAR is going to succeed. It won't happen overnight, but years of dedication will totally be worth it in 10 to 15 years from now. And Hunter, if you are watching this tonight, how about you share the thoughts you posted on Twitter with Wendell Scott's family? Tell them that racism has never existed in NASCAR. See how they react.
I stand by everything you say, Kobe. It has been hard, including for myself. I'm online as well. I have seen the comments, especially Dustin Skinner's comments, were really troublesome and disturbing for me. And everything, it has been a hard week, and that's why we had both agreed that it's time to address the online harassment and online bullying. One of the things we've seen online recently was a video that surfaced Monday of Daniel Ricciardo from Formula One singing along a song titled Right Above It by Lil Wayne, in which he used a racial slur which is part of a song lyrics. How concerning is that from Daniel Ricciardo?
Yeah, I mean, this video was recorded several years ago from his Red Bull days. It was very surprising to hear him use the N word in a song. I will say this, Daniel Ricciardo is extremely lucky that this did not happen in the year 2020. If this was the case, Renault would most likely drop him from the team altogether. That's just where we are as a society today. You cannot use a word like that, especially being a public figure, and not expect consequences. As of now, the video hasn't gained a ton of traction on social media. I haven't seen anything in the mainstream media about it either. Unless the video makes it there, I don't anticipate anything bad happening with Ricardo. If the blue check marks find it, then he might have some serious problems on his hand. Cancel culture is real. Yeah, but hopefully, in the years since that incident, Daniel Ricardo hopefully he has a better understanding of the world around him. And I have one last thing that I want to add before moving on to the final topic of the night. When we did our Grit Tonight segment several weeks ago on racing and racism, I could hardly find the right words. I just really struggled. This is such an emotional topic, and it should be taken seriously. Watching all of the disgusting, hateful comments towards Bubba Wallace truly breaks my heart. It's not fair, and it's not right that he is facing the brunt of these heartless attacks. With that being said, I stand with Bubba Wallace forever and always. He is a true leader helping create change in NASCAR and now the world. The uneducated, ignorant crowd calling this whole thing a hoax or directly blaming Bubba need to sit down and just simply get off the internet because that's no place for you. You will not break the NASCAR community. The message of love and unity will not be lost by your attempts to create more hate, racism, and division. We will continue speaking up and we won't be frightened by your hateful rhetoric. And me being a black person, standing up and being vocal, I understand that I'm making myself very vulnerable to trolls and personal attacks on the internet. I understand that I'm going to make some people very angry by continuing to speak my mind and stand up for what is morally right, in my opinion. Some people who have supported me in my career will no longer support me, and I understand that. Yes, some of my friendships that I've had for a while, they won't last either. And a few years ago, I was being vocal on Twitter about the Colin Kaepernick situation in the NFL, and somebody in the industry who's very supportive of me and continues to be supportive of me to this day sent me a text message saying that he said it's not that I agree or disagree with your perspective, but you probably shouldn't tweet about that stuff because people in the sport won't like it. But you know what? I don't even want to be associated or work for anyone who doesn't know right from wrong, anyways. It's all about standing up for everyone from all walks of life. If speaking out in these issues, standing with Bubba Wallace, or using my small platform to help inspire change ends up destroying my childhood dream of having a career in NASCAR, then unfortunately, that's just the way it was meant to be. I fully accept any backlash that may come my way. However, any potential haters won't destroy me because I'm a fighter, I'm a warrior, I'm the motorsports Mamba. I'm fearless. I'm determined. Nobody will define me. I know my self worth.
And Kobe, we will always be behind you. We support you. We love you. And we're just so fortunate and blessed to be working with you. And we stand with Bubba Wallace as well here for all race fans and for Bubba Wallace and for equity. While the online bickering, especially in the communities united behind the subject, such as the motorsport community, has seen the concern of online harassment growing and escalating, especially regarding a person's race, cyberbullying, and threatening or inciting violence against someone. In the end, social media does have tools to mute or block users that you find annoying. But if someone is harassing you because of your race, gender, or threatening you, here are some steps to take to protect yourself from online harassment.
Number one, recognize the situation for what it is. Online harassment. It can also be referred to as cyberbullying, but regardless of the name, know that this is a sign of weakness for the perpetrator. As upsetting as it can be, recognize that it's extremely important that you do not, I repeat, do not respond to this person. Engaging with the bully often makes matters worse, and that's exactly what they want. They want you to respond because they know that they're bothering you. And I know it's really sad that people are that way, but these people like to feed off misery and pain. So if you give them no response, they don't have any ammunition to feed off of.
Step 2. Make a copy of the message, photo, or video. The best thing to do is also take a copy of the URL on the specific web page where it happened. A screenshot of the page will be very helpful just in case. If you were to see anything on Twitter, you could definitely take a screenshot as well as report it in the event it is erased.
Step 3, contact the website operators by phone, email, and any contact submission forms that they have available on their website. Request that they take the content down immediately and let them know that you're filing a case with your local police department. Remain persistent though. Continue calling and emailing the website operators until the content has been removed.
File a report with your local police department. While some police departments have an Internet Crimes Division, some do not. That's where the Internet Crime Compliance Center, IC3, steps in. The IC3 is a partnership between the FBI, the National White Collar Crime Center, and the Bureau of Justice Assistance. They work together to track down serious cases of online criminal complaints and harassment. The link will be in the video description on our YouTube page and Facebook page.
Also, be sure to inform a family member or trusted friend of the situation as well. Yeah, and we encourage you to follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Patreon to show your support for the grid. For Joe Samniego, I'm Kobe Lambert. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on Saturday morning for the Grid Live pre-race show.